You've been pulled over, and a police officer walks up to your window. Pretty quickly, the questions start drifting towards drinking and driving. What do you do? Well, I'm Adam, a criminal defense and DUI attorney here in South Florida, and let's talk about the 5 things you should understand if a police officer pulls you over and starts investigating you for a DUI. Don't panic, stay prepared, and just so that way you're prepared, the first thing is simple, but it matters more than people realize. Don't talk too much. Now, it sounds obvious, but that's where most people get themselves into trouble. The moment you start filling the silence, explaining, joking, or rambling, you're giving the cops more to work with. They're trained to observe how you speak, how fast you talk, how confident you sound, and whether your answers make sense. And if you're overly talkative, extra nervous, defensive, a little just chatty Cathy going on, it can be written down as suspicious behavior. And once it's in the report, it's treated as a possible sign of intoxication. Now, that alone doesn't mean you're guilty, but it means the officer can have more reasons to investigate you. And some people think the answer is to be rude and confrontational. Well, that's a mistake too. You're required to provide your driver's license, registration, proof of insurance in Florida, and that's not optional. You have to do that. But arguing, snapping back, giving attitude is almost always something that's going to make things worse. And they routinely write down things like combative, confrontational, or uncooperative in their reports. These words often get framed later as signs of impairment. Now, here's something you probably didn't think about. A lot of jurors want to believe the defendant. They really do. But making yourself unlikable hurts you. Becoming a liar hurts you. If you're a jerk or rude or nasty, well, then they're not going to want to give you the benefit of the doubt. They're not going to want to help you. So there's a better approach that's very simple. It's have your documents ready, hand them over calmly, and be polite, even if the officer's not being polite or nice to you. Don't volunteer information, and after that, you have the right to remain silent. You don't have to answer any questions about where you were going, what you drank, how much you had. That's all protected by your Fifth Amendment. And remember this part because it's important. In Florida, it's not illegal to drink and then drive, but it is illegal to drive while impaired. So if an officer gets you to admit that you've been drinking just even one, well, that's enough in most situations for them to have probable cause to arrest you because probable cause is such a low standard. Don't lie either. Most people think it's a truth versus a lie. Well, it's a lot more than that. There's truth, there's lies, and there's officer, no thank you. Okay, and that's very important. Now let's get into the second thing that you need to understand. Police officers are trained to look for specific signs of impairment. And if you've ever seen a DUI arrest report, there's a bunch of check boxes that are there, right? Pre-written categories. And these cops they're trained to observe and check off anything that fits. Physical signs like odor of alcohol, bloodshot, watery eyes, slurred, slow speech, unsteady balance. Mental signs, confusion, difficulty following instructions, trouble locating your driver's license or documents, or appearing nervous. But here's the problem. Many of these signs have nothing to do with alcohol. You could be tired. You have allergies. You can be anxious. You can be scared. You could be standing on the side of the road with cars and traffic just whizzing by right past you. But once a cop sees it, it goes down as a sign of impairment. Anything that you did that's different or so-called not normal. And so that's why limiting what these officers have to say or what they see is so important. Now, the third issue is these field sobriety exercises. So in Florida, you're not legally required to perform them. There's no criminal penalty for saying, officers, I'm not doing the dance. No, thank you. Now, these exercises, they're designed to collect evidence. They're not designed to clear you. And people fail them all the time, even when they're completely sober. You're getting a bunch of rapid fire questions and instructions and aggressive, demands. Do this, stand here, take 1 foot, lift it up, put your finger, touch the tip of your finger to the tip of your nose. No, not like that. Watch me. Don't start. Stand here, arms down by your side. No, arms up, right? Left foot up, right foot up. They're going through the gamut of all of these things in a stressful environment where you're sitting there possibly worrying about your kids, your family, your job, how much money is this going to cost you? Now let's take on and throw on some additional things. These are done on the roadside. That's why they're called road signs. And when they're done on the side of the road, they're done with uneven pavement. They're done with cracks in the road. It's dark and you may have the only light from police officers' spotlights or their overheads, their red and blues going into the strobe lights, which are not supposed to be on. You're scared, you're nervous. What if you're overweight? What if you're not that athletic? Or what if, just like most of us, really all of us, you need time to learn and practice and get better at something that you've never done before in your life, right? And these are all things that shows how easy it is for all of us to fail these exercises, whether we're sober, whether we've had 1 or 2 drinks, or whether we've had 5 drinks or 10 drinks. And I've been lecturing to groups on these exercises for over 15 years, and not a single time in 15 years of lecturing has anybody ever passed my physical exercises, despite the fact that every single person has been sober. So if you choose to do these, understand that anything short of perfection can and will be used against you. And if you have any physical limitations, knee, back, ankle injuries, very rarely are those going to be factored in. They're supposed to, according to the rules, but the police officers are not going to factor these in. And they're supposed to give you seated exercises, and they're not going to do that either. And because of this, I've seen people perform well, fairly well, 80, 85, 90% well, maybe getting a B+ or an A-, still get arrested anyway. So if you choose to do these exercises, understand that anything short of perfection can be used against you. And if you have any physical issues, knee, back, ankle injuries, we can use this in defending you in court, but that's not going to prevent an arrest. The police officers are supposed to factor it in. Well, guess what? They don't. They're supposed to offer you seated exercises. Well, guess what? Vast majority of the time, they don't. Now, the 4th issue is blood or breath testing. And in Florida, refusing a lawful breath test after an arrest can result in a driver's license suspension and carry additional consequences, such as an additional misdemeanor, even if it's your very first time. And there's a new law as of October 1st, 2025, which means any refusal, even if it's your very first time refusing a breath, blood, or urine test, will carry an additional consequence of an additional misdemeanor, where you'd be looking at up to additional year in jail. And this is where Florida's implied consent law comes into play. Well, if you do choose to give a breath, blood, or urine test, you are going to be giving them scientific evidence that they can use against you. However, real DUI lawyers know how to attack, fight, and win these cases. Now, the government has to prove that you were over the legal limit at the time that you were driving, not an hour and a half to 2 hours after you were driving, which is when the breath test is usually given. Alcohol levels, they change over time in your body, and they have to prove, well, were you absorbing alcohol or were you eliminating alcohol from your blood or your breath? Now, what that means is, in a lot of cases, you could have been under the legal limit at the time you were driving, but you're still absorbing, and the alcohol levels are increasing, and an hour and a half later, now it's higher, and now you're over the legal limit. And there's many other issues and problems with the breath testing machines and procedures in the state of Florida that I go over in much more detail in other videos. So we'll link those so that you guys can watch and see how real DUI lawyers truly attack, fight, and win DUI breath cases. Now, finally, the 5th thing to understand is that at the end of the day, a DUI arrest often comes down to a police officer's opinion. Everything that you say and do during a stop becomes part of that decision. So you're not going to talk your way out of a DUI arrest. Here we are in 2026 and beyond. I've never seen it happen in a way that helps somebody long term. The roadside is not the place to fight your case. The fight happens in court. So keep it simple. Give the police your basic documents. Be respectful, and don't really give them anything else. Don't volunteer information. Don't argue. Don't help them build their case against you. If you ever find yourself facing a DUI in Florida, you need to get a lawyer who understands the law, the science, and how these cases are actually built. I'm Attorney Adam. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.